What is going on, guys? Crowder here, and I am bringing you guys Warzone's best loadouts after the TAC Evolve Year nerf that are basically the statistically fastest killing loadouts that you could be using to help your gameplay out. Let's get into it. Starting with my number one loadout for Fortune's Keep for big map. It does not matter. This is going to be more big map focused loadouts, but at the same time, it always does work on Fortune's Keep most of the time. But this one right here is insane. You can see on the statistics of the long range weapons right here that's going to pop up on your screen. The time to kill on this gun is crazy. This recoil is really easy to control. And the best part about this loadout is that you can make it even better if you are not the most skilled player. So right here is what I'm using right now. But if you want to take off the high grain and actually put on the assault stock, you can do that very easily, and it makes the recoil even easier. So this is something that you can do if you're more on the casual side, but I like the high grain ammunition for the damage range and the bullet velocity. The gun's going to shoot something like this in the firing range. Very, very easy recoil, very good firing aim stability, and just overall a very easy weapon to use to drop your opponents when you're shooting against them. Something that is my number one go-to in ranked play right now. I love this loadout, but let's move on to the next. And the next weapon we're going to be talking about for the longer range meta is going to be the Ram 7. Now, this did receive a nerf, so it doesn't have a super long range time to kill that it used to, where you can see on the stats, it kind of like dies out towards the end of the longer range time to kills. But so the big map, it's not the best. This is more of a better Fortune's Keep one. But some of the best players in the world that are really aggressive, and if you were an aggressive player, still use this Ram. It basically has no recoil, really easy to control, and it does drop people up to around the 45 to 46 meter range. Thing is insane, and you can see right here, these are the attachments I do use. I've been going back and forth with a few of them, so this Cassis break is nice, but at the same time, the Zem compensated flash hider is also really good on this, so I've been kind of going back and forth. They both basically have little to no recoil. The thing with this Ram, it has an initial jump, and then after that, it's really easy to control. So while you're shooting it, it's going to be really, really nice. And this visual recoil you're kind of seeing in the firing range does not happen when you're actually playing in Warzone. So it's definitely something very fun to use. Still one of my favorite weapons. I definitely like to use this when I'm being a little bit more aggressive in like solos. Definitely recommend trying this gun out. And if you want to see the recoil pattern of this one, you shoot it at the wall, and you can see that the initial jump of this Ram is going to happen right here where it's not as tight, and then it just kind of slightly goes up to the right in a much more tight fashion. Very easy to control if you just pull down to the left and make it a little bit easier for you. So this is the Ram 7. I love this gun. Let's move on to weapon number 3 of these meta loadouts. And weapon number 3 is right here. Now, this is not a list from top to bottom of what's the best and what's not. You just saw the stats. If you want to kind of make your own assumptions of the guns of what you want to use, go for it. I'm just kind of going through these guns that are all in the meta right now. So this is not the third best weapon, or don't take it that way, as much as it's just a weapon that is really good that is in the meta. Now, this one's a weird build. So a lot of times when you see this build, a lot of people are probably going to tell you to use the optic on it. I'm a huge iron sight guy when it comes to just kind of playing even big map right now. For some reason, I just feel like the iron sights on a lot of these weapons are really good for the most part. Some guns, obviously not so much. And I do think just the way you build a lot of these guns, taking off the optic and putting on another attachment for recoil usually just makes it really easy to shoot. But if you're not an iron sight guy, you can change this build up a little bit. I would probably take off this more and rear grip right here and throw the 2.5 optic on it. It's still really good. But the way this thing shoots, and the best part about this gun is that the time to kill threshold at a very far range is very good. It has really good bullet velocity for the most part because it has that silencer, and it has a silencer where a lot of these loadouts that a lot of these sweatier players are using, including myself, don't have a silencer on. And a lot of you guys that are probably watching this video also probably don't like having your radar always pop up on the map when you shoot. So if you're watching this video right now and you're liking this content, first of all, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you also want another video that's more like, I would say, casual based loadouts, like silencers are a must, and you really want to stay off the mini map, and you really want to have the most recoil control with the silencer, let me know, and maybe I can make like an off meta kind of loadout sheet for you guys too, of what you guys can obviously use. But this one right here, the Holger 26, insane. I actually like this gun a lot. I'm going to be using this on stream probably more often on the big map. And you can see the iron sight's not that bad. Really, really easy control recoil. And again, you have that silencer. So if I shoot this one at the wall, you're going to see that it kind of just goes up and a little bit to the right, and it just keeps kind of going and going, and it's a very, very tight recoil spread. So all you have to do is pull down slightly to the left when you're shooting, and it's going to look something like this, which is, again, a very easy recoil pattern to control and a very good gun that will drop your enemies with a silencer that's easy to shoot. Let's move to the next gun. And the next gun we're going to talk about is also another silencer build. Now, this is not my favorite weapon in the meta, but it is a very good gun and a very good option. It does have a silencer, and it also has an optic. I wouldn't use the iron sights on this one just because I don't really like the iron sights on the DG compared to some of the other ones, especially the Holger. So I don't use the iron sight build on this one, but it's still a very good gun to shoot. Definitely has the time to kill threshold that you were kind of looking for in the meta. And again, it's going to be one that has an optic and a silencer, so it's going to shoot like this. A little bit harder to control compared to some of the builds that I'm giving you guys. but not by much. And it's still going to be something that's a little bit different if you're not having any success with the current meta guns right now. And you can also just have something a little bit more fun if you want to change it up. So this is the DG58 LMG. And with these attachments on it, I do think it is a great option for you guys to try out. We have a few more honorable mentions to show you guys, and then we're going to move on to that SMG meta. One honorable mention is going to be the BASB. And if you could see on the stat sheet, this thing still has a really good time to kill threshold. But even with iron sights and not using an optic, I do think this gun is definitely a little bit more difficult to control. So it has the time to kill threshold, but it's definitely not a very mobile gun, and it's not a very straight shooting gun. So therefore, I've kind of messed with the Zem on this one, the Cassis break, and I still just don't really love the BASB as much as I used to before they nerfed it. But it's still going to be something where it's a little bit harder to control. It has a little bit of like a circular recoil kind of at the far end of, like, you know, the magazine that you're shooting. And again, you're not going to be super mobile. So this is more of an advanced one, or if you're really aggressive, you can definitely kind of have those medium ranges. Something on Fortune's Keep, it might be pretty good too. But still, I would rather the MTZ762 over a gun like this. This is why this gun is an honorable mention, but at the same time, a very usable option that I wanted to put into this video. Now let's move on to the last two weapons before we get into that SMG meta. And the last two weapons are not honorable mentions, but they're also not primary rifles in the sense where they're automatic weapons that you're shooting. They are sniper rifles, but they are 100% in the meta on Warzone and Fortune's Keep. Obviously not ranked because you can't get one-shot headshots with them in ranked play, but on Fortune's Keep, big map specifically, this gun right here is my absolute go-to. I play with this all the time. If you watch my stream, I'm using this in solos. Basically, every solo I play. I love the Cat AMR still, even after the nerf. These are the attachments. I don't think there is a better sniper class than this one for the Cat. And speaking of snipers, there's also the XRK Stalker, which is a little bit better on Fortune's Keep, but you can definitely use it on big map if you were an aggressive sniper. This is going to be something that has really good bullet velocity, better than the Cat, but you're not going to have that one-shot headshot range all the way out, like at 100 meters if you're taking those really long range shots. This build right here up to 75 meters is where you kind of have that one-shot headshot range, and then after that you're gonna have to hit them twice. But with how good the bullet velocity is on this weapon, probably not gonna be that hard to hit them twice. And if you're a really aggressive sniper, or you're someone that likes to quickscope, this feels more of like the Swiss from Caldera, or the Car 98K. This is kind of what this build feels like. That's why I have the no stock that I'm rocking on it too, and just overall a good build. And you can kind of get creative with this one too. I said there's no better build than my Cat build. I stick to that. I will die on that hill. But this one right here, you can obviously put on a different optic. You can obviously take off the high grain. You could do a bunch of different things and still make this gun really good and really fun to use. So this is something that I would recommend trying, and then obviously go from there to find your best loadout. But this gun is 100% in the meta, especially for Fortune's Keep. Now let's move on to that SMG meta that we were just talking about. And yes, right here, you're going to see the stats really quick come up on your screen of the SMGs, and you're going to see that the AMR does kill the fastest, but you don't always see some of the sweatiest players use the AMR. Now, it is very used among the map. A lot of people do use this gun because of how easy it is to shoot and how hard it hits, but it doesn't have the best sprint to fire speed. So I would recommend a gun like this to someone that's not the fastest player, that's not sprinting into buildings and going crazy, that just kind of wants to pre-aim and just drop their enemies while obviously they aim and shoot at the person. That's kind of the goal of that, right? But at the same time, on big map, I use this way more than I use on Fortune's Keep. And this is my go-to primary right now. I think this has really good recoil. You have the sprint speed with the buffer tube, and you're still going to have the ability to shoot this gun pretty accurately with the sight. You don't have to deal with iron sights, and just overall, it's just nice. So I like the AMR9. It's probably my favorite big map weapon right now. There's a couple other ways to build it, but I would recommend this one over any ones that I have built. You can kind of get a little bit weird and do something like this, which is just a little bit more sprint to fire-esque, or you can take off these attachments like the Phantom Grip, and you can put on a muzzle, or obviously take this off completely and put on a different barrel, and then obviously just kind of change it up. Because at the end of the day, when you put on barrels on this weapon, even though it takes 10% off of your damage range, you still have a threshold of 20 meters to get that really fast time to kill that this gun can provide you. So either way, you can get really fancy with some of these barrels if you don't like the build that I'm using, or if you want to make it a little bit easier to shoot. So you can have a lot of fun when it comes to this AMR9, and you can use something like this or just get really creative. But the one that I recommended before is my #1, and I'm just putting this one in to mention that there's other ways to build this one that you could still have a lot of fun with. So try it out. Let me know what you guys think, and let's move on to the next sub. And the next sub is right here on your screen, the Ram9. This is one of my favorite subs because of the mobility. It doesn't have the best sprint to fire speed, but the mobility, the easiness of it just to shoot, and just the visual of this gun in general. I love the strafe speed, and everything about it is great. And the high grain ammunition on this gives it a little bit more of that effective time to kill damage range, gives you just a little bit more range. Now, within 11 to 15 meters, it's basically basically all of your submachine gun fights anyway, so this gun still gets away with being really, really good. On big maps, sometimes you find yourself in that weird medium zone, but on Fortune's Keep, this one's really good, but on big maps still very usable, especially if you're aggressive and you're rushing into those buildings. This gun is for you. Now, the only other way I like to build this gun is you take off high grain and you put on the barrel instead, which is going to be aim walking speed, and you also get that range. And you can see you kind of get to the same exact range here, but it does hurt your recoil just a little bit, but it hurts your recoil, but you have more strafe speed with this one, right? So there's two ways to use this gun. Either way, it's going to shoot really, really straight. You have a very nice mobility of just the aim walking speed with this build. And if you take this off and you put on the high grain like I was just showing you, it's going to be very, very similar. Just you walk a little bit slower, but again, the recoil is going to be a little bit easier to manage. Either way, you can't go wrong with this Ram 9. And now let's move on to the next one. And the next sub is going to be the HRM9. And now this is the jack of all trades sub, because this sub still has a good time to kill, but it has the best sprint to fire speed by a landslide. And what I mean by that is this one is 81 milliseconds, where like the Ram and the AMR are around 140 to 150. And of course, depending if you're slide canceling a lot of stuff, you can kind of avoid the sprint to fire speed. But at the end of the day, when you're playing against a really good player, I think sprint to fire speed is probably the most important if you're really, really sweaty. So this is probably my #1 choice when I'm playing rank play and stuff, but I do like this gun even on the big map sometimes too, because of that. If you're in houses, either way, you can't go wrong with this one. This is my #1 build, but you can build this a bunch of different ways, which is why I kind of call it the jack of all trades sub right now. This is a fast build, really good in that like medium range of just like being good in sprint to fire, being easy to control, not having that much recoil. It's going to shoot something like this, which is right here. It's going to be very stable, very good iron sight, and just kind of very satisfying to shoot. But if you want to also have something that's just a little bit faster and have a little bit more range, you take off the muzzle. And a lot of pro players right now, like the best of the best, are using high grain on it, which is going to be a little bit more jarring when you were shooting it at first. It's going to have a little bit less stability, but you're also using this gun again to have more of the sprint to fire speed and be up close, and then also just have a little bit more range with this high grain ammunition. So some players do use this one. It's not my favorite version of it, but you definitely can get away with that. And then lastly, if you do play a little bit slower, or you just want the gun to have more range, this works on keep, because some of the keep fights do happen in the weird medium range threshold, or it does just really, really well on the big map, because sometimes you get into longer range gunfights on the big map. Is this longer range version of the HRM9 still has really good sprint to fire speed, still has a really good iron sight, and it's going to drop people all the way up until 16 meters, which is a lot farther than what it was before. And again, even though it's like 13 to 14 to 16, it doesn't seem like that much of a jump. That can be all the difference sometimes. And also, you get that beautiful iron sight right there, the Graz iron sight. It's so nice to shoot, very satisfying. It always brings back good memories. And again, a very easy weapon to shoot that I recommend you trying out if you want to obviously use something a little bit different than the fast version of the HRM9. So that's why I like this gun. It has a bunch of different builds that you can do, but there's still one other gun I want to show you guys before we kind of end this video and wrap it up. And that is this gun right here, the BP. This is an assault rifle. This is also a very valuable option. If you can see in the stats, it kills very fast up close, very in the competitive range of all these submachine guns that I just showed you. And you can build this in so many different ways where you don't even have to do what I'm about to show you, but this is my tac stance build with it. And it is amazing for tac stance. Even with this tac stance build, if you aim in, still very, very easy to shoot if you want to kind of just use it at the longer range. That's kind of outside of that tac stance range. But either way, if you put this into tac stance, dude, look at this. So accurate, so strong. It's going to drop your opponents close. You can be mobile with it. And tac stance in general is just kind of fun sometimes, especially if you're not someone that's good with recoil. This is kind of just like playing from the hip at all times. It's going to be really accurate, and you're going to have a good strafe speed. So this is something that I definitely recommend trying if you want something a little bit different than the meta that you're using right now. And if I was using it for a longer range kind of just assault rifle build, I also like these attachments here. But again, this one has very limited recoil, but I still think the BP with only 45 rounds in the magazine isn't the best primary. That's why it's more of a sniper support or a tac stance type kind of weapon right now. That is it for this video. Those are the best loadouts in Warzone Season 2 right now, especially after the tac evolve year has been nerfed. The tac is still not a bad weapon. There's still a lot of testing to be done, whether or not that's in the meta. If you guys want my class for the tac, it is right here on your screen, and it's just going to be that. I don't know if this is going to be in the meta after that big nerf. It's still pretty good when I use it, but again, there's still a lot of stats that have to be kind of just made up on it, but still definitely worth a try if you want a very limited recoil weapon that is good at longer ranges. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as always, it's been your boy Crowder. I hope I helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.